Meet Koa Polo Jr., the #1 rated player in the state of Hawaii and the #1 linebacker in the nation. Now you're probably wondering, why did the #1 linebacker in the country choose Kansas out of all schools to attend? Well, up until now, KP has never been outside of his hometown, Pearl City, Hawaii, and it's for a few major reasons. Now you've probably noticed, KP's a junior, but oddly enough, he's never met his father. He passed away the day he was born. Cole's mom called his dad, letting him know that she was in labor and he was rushing from work and got railed off the road by a semi. He ain't make it. And that left KP to grow up as the only child. His mother never remarried and never even got into another relationship. She could never get over the death of his dad. And as you can imagine, the relationship between Cole and his mom would be tight, so his drive to be successful for her would be different. Now, of course, KP received a full ride scholarship to Hawaii so he can be as close as possible to his mom, but he had other ideas. Instead of doing what every other top recruit in his state would do, attend the University of Hawaii, he wanted to do something completely different. Go somewhere and completely revamp the culture where none really existed. Leave the city, leave the state he was born and raised in, and attend the University of Kansas that isn't known for football, and he wants to completely change that. And I mean, day one, the entire team took notice. They all rally around him like he's literally a team leader as a freshman. But Koa and this entire team knows that it's going to take a while, at least 3 to 4 years, before they can actually become a national championship caliber team. From a physical standpoint, standing at 6'1", 240 pounds, KP's a perfectly built outside linebacker. Now, he always wanted to play middle, and we all know you have to be insanely smart to play the middle linebacker position, which he is, but coaches love the way he can get to the quarterback with his speed at his size. Like here on 3rd and 8, shooting off the edge, getting back into the hole, and clapping his running back before he can get to the line of scrimmage, absolutely insane. And of course, at 240 solid pounds, he gonna hit something. He gets his first career forced fumble here at home. At this point, he's treating these LA Tech players like practice dummies. He's rocking every single player he comes up against. Despite Cole balling out doing his thing, as a team they could not rally together, taking an embarrassing 20-0 loss. Imagine getting shut out at home. That's crazy. One thing the coaches here at Kansas wanted to do was experiment with Cole in pass coverage, see how he would fare. He's not great, but I could definitely see him getting a lot better. Now, even though he's always going to get his opportunity to blitz and get in the backfield, against a pass-heavy team like Texas Tech, he's going to have to get in coverage at some point. One thing about KP, he is not one to complain. He accepts everything that comes with the game, but he hates being put in the coverage because he feels like it's a waste of time. But one thing he's learning about college football, they're not going to attack your strong suits. They're going to go after your weaknesses. So when you're the best player on the field, your opportunities are going to be limited at times. But when you do get those opportunities, you have to capitalize. Like here on 2nd and 4, he's playing in zone. The ball is thrown right at him and he doesn't jump and make a play on the ball. But like I said earlier, KP is extremely smart, a student of the game. Anytime he can make adjustments mid-game to make a play the next time after an error, he's going to do that. And here on 3rd and 4, Cole wouldn't make the same mistake twice. He would get his first career interception and take it back to the crib for a pick six, extending the Jayhawks lead. I don't think you understand. The mental and physical leap that KP has taken as a football player is absolutely incredible. What looked like a bad read from the quarterback and a simple catch and run for Cole would actually be one of the scariest things for every team in college football. Now I'm going to explain in detail in a second, but do you see how he's shedding blocks, getting to the quarterback, making play after play? Now that's what he's known for. Big physical guy, really known as a banger. You got a guy with his physical tools, his physical gifts, and then have the mental capacity to read in coverage and make plays on the ball. He has potential to be the best ever. After a monstrous game against Texas Tech, KPJ will be recognized as the Defensive Player of the Week. After recording his first career interception last week against Texas Tech, he opens up this game against TCU with his second in back-to-back games. See, that's what amazes me about Cole as a player. Mentally, he'll make an adjustment and then he'll perfect it the next minute. No matter how great you are, mistakes like this are bound to happen. He trips up himself and his teammate for making this play with no time left on the clock. Absolutely embarrassing. This game against TCU is coming down to the wire. Both sides of the ball are playing extremely well. It's pretty much a dogfight. But in the end, Kansas would take their second L of the season to a great TCU team on the road in the rain. Cole walks out with 5 tackles, 1 for loss, a sack and a pick. Those specialty stats somewhat made up for the lack of tackles, but we definitely needed more from his end. KU's schedule is really starting to heat up. 5-1, number 7 ranked Oklahoma, but thankfully they're at home. If this team's play starts to become inconsistent, it can really hurt this team. Ups and downs really aren't good for a season, especially when the bad outweighs the good. But when it comes to KPJ as an individual player, I don't see his play slipping at all. He's really on pace to lead the nation in sacks. I mean, he's been laser focused, dead locked in on his play on the field, and it's not only helped him, but also his teammates. See, defensively, I'm not worried about this team at all. The secondary is a little bit shaky at times, but that defensive front and these linebackers are outstanding. But watching this offense can cause a headache. No points through 3 quarters, and this defense is holding this team, the number 7 ranked team, to 7 points throughout 3 quarters. I mean, maybe Cole needs to play both sides of the ball. Put him at running back, 6'1", 240. He's literally a college Derrick Henry at this point. What universe do we live in where there's no time on the clock, no timeouts, 4th and 12, and you run the ball? What is the offense doing? And the difficulty of their schedule continues to rise as they face the number 14 ranked team in the country, Baylor. We're just about halfway through the season, and Cole is leading the nation in tackles and sacks. With little to no distractions on or off the field so far this season, he's been able to maintain an insanely high level of focus, which is why he's been able to maintain such a high level of play. He's pretty much been a nightmare for every quarterback they played this season. But I know and I hope Cole knows and realizes that life won't always be easy breezy. Some difficulty is bound to come. But no matter what, if he continues to dominate, he'll definitely win a few awards this season and probably end up being an All-American. Kansas did a great job bouncing back from the L last week with a great team win over a really talented Baylor team. So just before Cole left Hawaii to come to Kansas, his mom stepped outside of her comfort zone and she started dating again. She'd been talking to this guy named Roy. Now he's from North Carolina. He just recently moved to Hawaii and she just been showing him around a bit. Now Roy, he's a cool guy for the most part. Of course he's going to put on his best behavior when her 6'1", 240-pound son is around. But KP is in Kansas and his mom is way in Hawaii by herself with Roy, and things have been going left to say the very least. Now as of lately, KP's mom hasn't been calling every single day like she usually does to check up on him because they have a bit of separation anxiety between each other. Now between class, practice, and how deep their schedule is going into the back end of the season, he haven't really noticed it much. But very, very soon, one phone call will change all of that. His focus will be completely shifted by something he thought he'd never hear. Just before their game against number 11 ranked Oklahoma State, KP received a phone call, and it was from his mama. She was crying hysterically, saying, he hit me. Just before he was about to put his pads on, he was going crazy, yelling, screaming, what's going on, what happened, what? He was just so confused and just completely out of it. A minute or two later, he got off the phone. His teammates was just in his face. What's going on? Are you good? He was just going crazy, tears falling from his face. It was wild. After letting a few people in the locker room know what was going on, his coaches, his teammates begged him to hop on the flight and go take care of his mom, but KP wanted to stay and play in the game. One of KP's uncles assured him that he would take care of his mom and she would be alright, so he stayed, played the game, and played one of his best of the season. KP took all of that anger, that pain, and he put it into his play, and even his teammates piggybacked off that same energy. After a performance like that, seeing their true potential against a really good opponent, the number 11 ranked team in the country, you gotta imagine this team is feeling great. And with Cole playing one of, if not the best game he's played thus far this season, you would think he'd be on somewhat of a high horse. But instead, it's the complete opposite. He's ready to pack everything up right now or at the end of the season and go back home to protect his mother. Now, even though Roy is out the picture, KPJ sees it as it's his job to protect his mother. And in his mind, he failed at that. Right now, even though the team is playing really well and starting to get some forward momentum, KP is starting to drift off into a very dark place mentally. Like I said earlier this season, no matter what goes on, I don't see KP's play on the field slip in any way possible. Now, even though KP is still on the field, making big plays, playing at an extremely high level, his teammates have noticed his energy is taking a dip and it's infecting everybody. Right now, no matter what, win or lose these next couple of games, Kansas will be in a bowl game, but depending on which bowl game, it can mean a lot of NIL deals to be on the table. Now, money isn't a quick fix, but it could be somewhat of a band-aid at times, especially in situations like this, to kind of help his mom cope and get through her situation. At least until he can make it back home during the spring, which is a little while away, but they do have to finish the season out strong. And they do the complete opposite, getting shut out on the road against a terrible Iowa State team. The energy for the guys are completely off. Final game of the season, it's a snowy one at home against rival Kansas State. Now, even though Cole is a freshman, he understands and he knows that you have to play near perfect football to be the top 10 team in the nation. Now, per usual, the defense is playing good, holding up very well against a top team, but offense within these next couple of quarters, they got to turn it up. And to no surprise, offense can't put up more than 13 points, which is right around their average, which is actually pretty sad being that their defense is so dominant. And just like that, KU drops their last 2 games of the season with a very mediocre 6-6 record. But the sad part about it, this was a rivalry game. Their 3rd or 4th ranked team they played all season. So many chances to get ranked themselves, it's crazy. To no one's surprise, that boy Cole came on top and he won the Chuck Bednarik Award. And on top of that, go ahead and throw in the Bronco Nagurski as well. You could make that three. Three of the most prestigious awards for a defensive player in college football, and he won all of them as a freshman. Their season didn't go nowhere near his plan, but they will get a shot to finish over 500 in the guaranteed rate bowl. Now here in this bowl game, they got 6-6 Purdue, a very mediocre team, but they're definitely not one to sleep on. I know for a fact, or at least I hope, that all of the energy and time is put into recruiting and just building up that offense, because the defensive side of the ball is well taken care of. Because as long as Cole's making plays and getting sacks like this, he's going to motivate and elevate and heighten the play of anybody who comes on this defense. And with the outstanding game from the defense and minimal effort from the offense, KP and the Jayhawks get to walk through the confetti and celebrate a bowl win. Now even though they only finished 7-6, it's a step in the right direction and it's great momentum going into the next season. To no surprise, Cole finished #1 in the country for tackles, and his teammate Miller finished second, which is somewhat of a surprise. And I know I keep bringing it to everyone's attention, but as a freshman, remember, he's a freshman, he leads the nation in sacks. Now statistically, Cole dominated. I'm excited to follow the rest of his career, and I can only imagine right now the level of havoc he's going to cause on college football in just his sophomore season. After balling out my freshman year, there's a lot of high expectations for my sophomore year. But not only on me, but us as a team, we're looking to be in the spotlight of the Big 12. Now granted, that is saying a lot, even though we had a very mediocre season last year, but we're looking to take a huge leap with a lot of great additions to our roster. Of course, I put in a lot of work over the summer, spring practices, all of that. I done gotten bigger, stronger, and even faster, which is crazy. I'm looking to be a nightmare for everybody this year. But our biggest concern was our offense. Can they dominate at a consistent level the same way that our defense does? If memory serves me correctly, no team ran up points crazy on our defense. So if our offense can give us 2 to 3 touchdowns a game, which isn't a lot to ask, we would be fine. But even though we're playing FCS Southeast this week at home, there's no better way to start the season than with a shutout. Now, I know it's kind of early with me only being in my sophomore season, but I can't help but think, what would my draft stock be like? What would scouts say about me as a player? Because I know no prospect or player is just perfect. What could I work on? What could I do to improve my game to become the best overall player that I could possibly be? Whether it's my footwork, speed, how I engage with offensive linemen, how I play in coverage, whatever it is, I just want to improve. And think about it now, I'm not sure if I want to declare for the draft after my junior or senior season. That's a big decision to make. And I'm kind of reluctant to ask for my mom's input because I know for a fact she gonna want me to stay all 4 years, get a degree, XYZ. I want to go to the league and get a bag. But going to the league as soon as possible will put me in position to do exactly what I wanted to do my entire life, and that's just take care of her. But aside from that, games like this are what really frustrates me with this team. We have far more talent on both sides of the ball than Duke. And somehow we go down to the wire with teams like this. I'm not saying we need to have a blowout every week, but we should not be in overtime against a team like this. As a defense, we did our job, holding them to only a field goal in overtime, and offense finally went down and scored, and we barely edged out Duke. We got the #8 ranked team in the country, Texas, this week, and they're already starting the game double teaming me, and their offensive line is already dominant. I know how important it is to capitalize on all opportunities I get on the field, but then I proceed to drop my first pick opportunity. It blows my mind how talented our defense is, holding this high-powered offense to 0 points going into the fourth quarter. But with this team being so talented, I wouldn't count them out just yet. And plus, offense hasn't given us anything the entire fourth quarter. And just like that, I called it. They scored towards the end of the fourth, got a field goal, and then beat us in overtime. Offense didn't produce nothing. Now, even though things are going pretty well for me here at school, back home, it's the complete opposite. And these last 4 to 5 months have just been completely chaotic, to say the absolute least. After the incident with her ex-boyfriend, she went in a downward spiral, went into this somewhat mental black hole, and she just haven't been able to come out of it. I mean, she was just sick. She even tried to hurt herself at one point. She was in the hospital for a while because of it, and it's just been really, really bad on her and me. And I just been trying to wrap my head around the fact that I can't do anything about it, especially being so far away here at Kansas. And we've been talking a lot, trying to figure out how can I do things better, what can I do as her son to improve our situation overall. And in her mind, there's one solution to all of our problems, but it would throw a wrench in my life and my football career. After a dominating performance, 9 tackles, 4 for loss, and 4 sacks against Central Michigan, we took the dub, and I came out Big 12 Player of the Week. Now, the solution that she's referencing to is me moving back to Hawaii to be home with her and to comfort her in her time of need. And moving back to Hawaii would mean I would have to transfer. Now, I don't want to turn my back on KU, but it's like the school or my mother. Which one do I pick? What comes first? I put going to school at KU first over her, and it's like I don't want to make the same bad decision twice. But I made a mental commitment to myself and coaches that I wanted to completely revamp the culture at Kansas, and I don't want to go back on that. But my decision will be based on a few things: how the season goes, how I perform as an individual, and just how well we play as a team. But as time go on, every conversation we have on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, I can hear the sadness, the depression in her voice, and I want to be able to cure that. But then again, I think I've accomplished so much just within 1 year. I'm established, I'm comfortable, and I've got some independence. And then how could I forget to mention, I've been in a relationship for the past 8 months. I can't just drop my girl. My beautiful queen Gardenia. Now she's not Hawaiian, so mama would not approve of her at all. She always wanted me to be with and marry a traditional Hawaiian woman, someone she could vibe with and relate to, which I understand. Bringing a Latina woman home to my mom would be a huge shocker. It would completely throw her off, but Gardenia is such a sweetheart, such a great person. She'd blend right in. And even though we've been rocking for 8 months, I haven't even said a word to my mom about her, so showing up back home with her would be somewhat of a shock. And you see, Gardenia attends KU as well, and I haven't even mentioned to her that I'm considering transferring and moving back home, and that would completely throw a wrench into everything we got going on. So as you can see, I got a lot going on, a lot of secrets, a lot of things that haven't been said, a lot of actions that haven't been taken, and I have to make a decision based off these things. And then you throw in the fact that I'm a captain, a leader on this team, and I have to always play at my best to continue to lead us in the right direction. Once again, we start the season off hot, and then we just lose momentum about halfway, and I don't understand why. Now, our defense, of course, we're consistent, we're playing at a high level, but our offense hasn't met expectations and played the way we thought they would. Kansas has never been a real football school, and then you throw in the fact that we have an extremely tough schedule. Like right now, we're playing the number 4 team in the country. We're only halfway through the season, and we've already played 3 top 10 ranked teams already, which is outrageous. But that's one of the main reasons why I came to Kansas in the first place. We're not one of the best teams, but we will be able to compete against some of, if not the best teams in the country. And yes, I know we're just about 2 years into the grind, but that plan has completely backfired. Like, we're losing every time we play one of these top teams. And that's where I went wrong. I thought my talents alone would uplift us and put us where we needed to be to overcome every piece of adversity and beat these great teams. I'm completely wrong because we have taken steps forward. We have gotten a lot better with me being on the field, but obviously I'm on defense. I can't control the offense. But every time I decide to go back on my thinking, we have games like this. We beat a top 5 team in the country and held them to only 7 points. And just like that, we're ranked back within the top 25. To have 3 losses and to still be ranked is crazy. It's almost like the NCAA wants us to succeed. If we were undefeated right now, a perfect 7-0, we would most definitely be ranked within the top 5. It's like we beat every team we're supposed to, and then we run against real competition, those real big dogs of the Big 12, we fall just short or we just get completely blown out. I mean, we all know the saying, defense wins championships, but when you have 0 offense, man, you ain't winning nothing. But even though I've been struggling to keep my composure with the team and to kind of hide my frustration, it's starting to leak out just a little bit. After a blowout win over West Virginia in week 10, I come out NCAA Player of the Week, 7 tackles, 5 for loss, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. I balled. Now, I wouldn't say all hope is lost for our team. We are 5-3, and we could finish out this season extremely strong. With a 7-point lead on TCU in the second quarter, I break on this route and get one of my first picks of the season, and I get tackled. I really thought I was taking this one to the crib. This past week, I seen an article online. Some unnamed coaches and scouts said I was one of the hardest hitting linebackers, players in general, that they've seen in the past 2 decades. I'm on the sideline watching our defense play deep coverage, and somehow we rushed 3 and we still managed to get a sack on this quarterback. We blow out the number 4 team in the nation, but then we struggle against a 5-4 TCU team. Do y'all see a pattern here? Because I'm starting to notice one. We're coming towards the end of the season. We've been playing well the last couple of weeks after dropping a few games, and I still have to make a decision. Do I break the girlfriend news to my mom first, or do I break the potential transfer / completely move away news to my girl first? I've been talking to a few people, trying to get the input from some of my coaches, friends, and teammates, and it just seems like everybody is just biased and one-sided. Everybody's been one-sided and biased. Obviously, they don't want me to leave Kansas, but at the same time, I just need somebody in my corner who's going to tell me the truth. So I decided to go to Gardenia first and let her know what's going on before I did my mom, and my girl's response was unexpected. This entire time, I haven't said anything about what's going on to her, and she's been the most supportive person of them all. I let her know straight up, moving back home to Hawaii, leaving Kansas completely would be an option at the end of this season. And I let her know I wasn't expecting her to drop everything and say, oh, I'll move with you or anything like that. I just wanted to let her know, just to be honest and have some kind of transparency. But I told her keep in mind, and I somewhat had to remind myself that this isn't a final decision. It's just a possibility. So now that I have that weight lifted off my shoulders, I've come clean and kind of got that out. I can actually focus on the rest of the season and finish out strong. We blow out Iowa State 24-0 at home. We played a great game. Our guys stepped up and they played very well. And for the third time this season, we're ranked within the top 25. We've been in and out all year, bro. What is happening to us right now? And if I'm not mistaken, we were ranked 23, I think, twice this season, once before and then now. And then I think we're within the top 21 or top 20 teams at some point, something like that. As crazy as it sounds, I don't see this as a must-win game. Whether we go 7-5 or 8-4, it doesn't matter. We didn't meet expectations, at least not mine. I think at some point we were the number 16 ranked team in the country. That's huge. And to think if we would have won a few more games and not dropped as many, we would have been even higher. So even though we've given the Jayhawk fan base something to look forward to, bowl games, a winning season, getting ranked, getting unranked, it's just not enough for me. We finished the season getting a win over Baylor, and taking a look at my stats for the year, I increased my numbers across the board, and I still believe I am the best defensive player in college football. A few days ago, me and my mom had a phone call, a real deep conversation that pretty much made up my mind about my decision. Last season, we were mediocre. This season, we were above average, but nowhere near where I thought we would be. I wanted to be a national championship type of team this year. Like I said earlier, a few things were playing to my decision. How we played as a team, how I played individually, and how far we went as a team in general. I had a talk with Gardenia, and she said no matter what, she wants to be with me and she supports any decision I make. And if I do decide to move back home, she would transfer as well. So right now it seems like I have the green light to move back home and go to Hawaii. My girl is coming with me and my mom will be happy. So taking everything into account, do I go back home and start fresh at the University of Hawaii? Or do I continue to build on the legacy I've already started at Kansas? With the way things played out in Koa's life after his sophomore season, everybody, including the coaches, teammates, the entire University of Kansas, knew he was going to transfer back to Hawaii. And he did the complete opposite. He returned back to Kansas for his junior season. He's looking to have his best year yet before entering the NFL draft. Now, one thing about it, we all know Cole's going to step up and play at a high level every time he steps on the field, but we're looking for this team to have more success than they did last season. There's a few new faces on both sides of the ball, a handful of guys returning from last season. KP's leadership is going to be needed more than ever, but I know he's going to be the high-end vocal leader that he's always been. If KP can replicate anything from his freshman or sophomore season, there's no doubt in my mind he will be a locked-in first-round pick, maybe even a #1 overall pick as a linebacker. But even with high hopes for the season, the Jayhawks get off to an ugly start, taking a loss in OT in a battle against Memphis. Going into this season, Cole and his mom were on two completely different planes when it came to his decision, and obviously things didn't go the way she wanted. See, when KP made the decision to stay in Kansas, she felt like he was abandoning her, and that couldn't be further from the truth. He's doing everything he can to be in the best position possible to take care of her. What she doesn't understand is he's in a place where he could actually have some success, not only for himself but his team, and he's kind of built something special in Kansas. Going to Hawaii, he would literally be starting from scratch. But after explaining this to her time and time again, KP just can't get through to her. And it's like she's developed somewhat of a slight hatred for him, and he's noticed. And a clear example of that slight hatred that she's developed, KP tried to fly back home for spring break. And after calling to make sure it was a good time, she told him not to bother, and that shattered KP's heart. Cole's current girlfriend, Gardenia, she's been playing somewhat of the middle ground, keeping in contact with Cole and his mom, kind of getting her point of view and giving Cole some insight because she won't talk to him at all. I mean, could you imagine scratch that, the most important person in your life has resentment or hate towards you and they just don't even want to engage or even talk to you? Cole's playing with an extremely heavy heart and a boatload of pressure. Between trying to get to the league and be a top-end draft pick, carrying his teammates and fixing the situation with his mom, he got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And Gardenia, she's the real MVP. She's doing everything she can to make sure Cole's in a good headspace and making sure he's good physically, if you know what I mean. Friend, companion, a life partner. She's been everything for Cole within this last year, and I can't imagine if he didn't have her on his side. But overall, Cole's been respecting his mom's boundaries because he knows if he oversteps, she could slip back into a terrible mental state like she did last year, and that's the last thing anybody wants. But most days are better than others. Some can be pretty bad, but I'm extremely proud of KP for being so strong and still playing at an elite level. But on a lighter note, 2 back-to-back dubs after that week 1 L against Memphis, and they're looking to get their 3rd straight win against a pretty decent TCU team. But it won't be a walk in the park. This offense is firing on all cylinders. They're not getting enough pressure on this quarterback, and their secondary, I don't think they can hang. And the greatest part of this Kansas team is the defense. And if they can't compete with this TCU team, you know the offense is going to struggle. And they've done just that throughout these first 3 quarters. And they continue to do everything they can to keep the ball away from Cole, running the ball to the opposite side of the field. And somehow he still finds a way to make plays. Down here in the red zone on 2nd and 8, a big play is much needed for this Kansas defense. And Cole just misses out on a potential pick 6. And when it's all said and done here in the 4th quarter, this TCU team is just far more superior. They did an amazing job completely erasing Cole from this game from making any big impactful plays. After a game against a tough TCU team, you'd think the next one would be a little bit easier. Wrong. They got number 21 ranked Oklahoma. This Oklahoma offensive line has built a wall in front of this quarterback, but KP won't be stopped. He sheds this block getting the back for a negative 8-yard sack, a big time play. With Cole's elite size, speed, and agility, who would be his NFL comparison today or even all time? And aside from him being a freakish athlete, his IQ is off the charts, somewhat like a Luke Kuechly. And then his overall toughness, being able to see the ball, get to the spot, lay big hits on command. And his big hit ability is on full display. He gets just his 2nd forced fumble in this game. He's absolutely terrorizing his offense. And to my surprise and just about everyone else's, Kansas is hanging in tight with the number 21 ranked team in the country. This is a big statement game. And after a dominant performance like that at home, I wouldn't be surprised if Cole's name slipped into the Heisman conversation early this season. And their strength of schedule continues to get harder. 4-1 Oklahoma State, who's looking to get ranked, but the Jayhawks can have something to say about that. I don't know how this left tackle didn't get called for holding on this play, but Cole uses his strength to shed the block and he gets a huge sack. And that same tackle did everything he could to slow Cole up. He fully extended to try to get the block, but that elite speed that Cole possesses, it just can't be tamed. This O-line has no answer for Cole. He continues to get into the backfield and cause disruptions for this offense. He's going crazy. These last couple of games, Cole's been more of a disruption and a problem for these offenses more than ever. That game against TCU really woke up his inner beast. The Jayhawks pull off another surprising win against yet another top-tier team in the country, advancing to 4-2. Word around town is that Texas football is back, but we're going to see today as they match up against the Jayhawks at home. Now, even though Texas is a Big 12 team, they love to run the ball. And even though this running back isn't Bijan, he ain't no joke. But when they do decide to drop back and pass the ball, KP is going to make sure he does everything he can to put a hurt on Quinn Ewers. And put a hurt on him is an understatement. KP nearly knocked his head off. Quinn thought he had an easy dump off in the flats. He turned his head and got smashed. But despite a pretty good stand by this Jayhawk defense, their offense has been non-existent the entire game. And they're going to take a 10-0 road loss to a pretty mediocre Texas team. They just can't find the stride of consistency. And that's it. That one word, consistency, has been the focal point for this Jayhawks team for the last 3 seasons. These last 2 years, in my opinion, this Jayhawks team had the potential to be historically great, but they can't put together a complete season. And the same song for this team has been on repeat. Win a couple games here, drop one there, just super inconsistent. It's almost like an endless cycle. They'll play against top tier teams in the country, play well, win those games. When it comes to playing teams that they should beat, they don't step up and perform. It's almost like they get excited or somewhat satisfied because they're winning games, more games in a season than they've won really in the last decade. In the player-only meetings that KP puts together throughout the season, he harps on this time and time again, but it seems like the team just isn't hearing him. And that gets me thinking, going back to Cole's decision to stay at Kansas instead of transferring, if he can't get it done here with the team he's developed, imagine how hard it would have been at Hawaii. But back before Cole even made his decision, he even considered going to one of the top teams in the nation, like a Alabama or even a Georgia. I mean, could you imagine KP being an addition to one of these already stacked dominant teams in the country? They would have just been OP with his talents added to that roster. But the only thing that kept KP from even considering transferring to another team other than Hawaii or staying at Kansas was his mom, of course. Instead of her recognizing her son as the #1 defensive player in all of college football, and if he went to one of those teams, it can increase his draft stock like crazy, she would just see it as betrayal. And it's just sad, somewhat pathetic, that this man cannot reach his full potential somewhere else because of someone else's feelings. They're within the last 3 games of the season with a very mediocre 5-4 record, and KP can't believe how the season is going. If they win out, they won't finish much better, if not any better than what they did last season, and KP can't believe that. To no one's surprise, Cole was balling at an elite level, having a similar statistical season to his junior year, which is locking him in to be a first-round draft pick. I mean, the only thing that can make the situation better is if they had a team in Hawaii so Cole can go straight home and be with his mom to satisfy her. But on a serious and realistic note, what pick in the draft would Koa be in the first round exactly? And what team would actually pick him up? Honestly, I don't see him going no later than the third or fourth pick. Maybe behind a few quarterbacks, but you never know. The league will shock you sometime. They got 8-2 West Virginia this week. Now, usually, especially at home, they step up against talent like this, but I wouldn't chalk this one up as a dub just yet. The way Koa set this running back up to play the outside, plant that foot, get back inside, and explode through that hole to get to the quarterback, amazing. This West Virginia team is not known for running the ball, and they're trying to catch the Hawks by surprise by putting it on the ground a lot more than usual. But what they fail to realize is there's no success to be had on the ground against one of the top teams in the nation when it comes to rush defense. And the way Koa continues to duck and dodge potential blockers is amazing. He extends fully, gets the sack, bro. He is a magician. And to cap off an impressive win, my boy almost gets a pick six, a easy, just not even a walk-in pick six, a step-in, a tiptoe pick six, but he comes away with a good tackle. Final game of the season, or final game for Koa at least for obvious reasons, but they're at home against 3-8 Texas Tech. If they win this one, they could finish out 8-4, which isn't terrible, but Koa had national championship hopes on his mind definitely. But to think that it's been 3 full seasons, Koa's been healthy, he's been extremely dominant, it's been a pleasure to cover his career so far. With Koa leaving after this season and going to the NFL draft, and Gardenia graduating a year early, securing her degree, they'll be starting their careers at the same time. And I have to say it's going to be beautiful to see how much better KP and his mom's relationship get after he's going to be able to move her anywhere in the country, wherever he's at. And I've been thinking, how is this Jayhawks defense going to fare next season? No KP, this team might drop back right where they were before he even came. And on the final play of KP's collegiate career, his teammate secures a pick, a clutch one at that, to take them home for an 8-4 season. Taking a look at his rewards and his total stats for his college career, they're otherworldly. Koa Polo Jr. is a college football legend. Koa, Gardenia, and his mom have flew out to New York for the NFL draft. Now, Koa and Gardenia are in the green room, but his mom nowhere to be found, and she's not picking up her phone after missing a million calls.